going to start in a few.
So I'm expecting you to be like a Joe. Joe is like a wrangler who like. I will wrangle. I got you. Baby, I think tonight we can take what was wrong and make it right. Baby, it's all I know, but you'll have hope of flesh and what makes me whole. I need you so. So take this broken wings and learn to fly again. Learn to feel so free. When we hear the voices sing, the book of love will open up and let us in. It's all I know, but you'll have hope of flesh. And God makes me whole. Take this broken wings. You got to learn to fly, learn to live and not so free. When we hear the voices sing, the book of love will open up and let us in.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Nathan. Okay, great. Okay. Come. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hi. That's right, Judy Jackson. I am so happy. When I walked in, someone said to me, "Oh my God, so many brown faces." But then someone said, "But I think they're all just here." So that is not going to continue to be the case. And Adrian started a movement. So in 2017, we all read the articles, right? Who read the article? Page 6, okay, and what's on your chairs? 2017, in talking with, on stage with Holly Berry, Adrian stood up and said that she was going to make a promise, and she kept it, to bring color to Cannes. And it has been incredible what we are seeing and still need to see. And as a matter of fact, who we have with us today is the first head of DE&I, black male, but first person in his position. That is the head of DE&I for Cannes Lion. Frank Sterling. You're going to see him in just a few minutes. That is progress. That is progress. But this would not happen without Adrian. I remember I met Adrian many years ago when she was at Howard University, and then met her again later in 2018 when I was at WPP. And she talked about her vision, and she talked about bringing more young people of color to Cannes. And I said, WPP is going to be on board. And we brought 8 young people. And I think that year, I don't know how many she had, maybe it was 15, but now it's 25 here today. And it is amazing, all because she sat in the audience and heard and saw that there wasn't color and said, I'm going to make a difference. And how many of us sit in audiences and say, oh, I want to make a difference, but then we forget about it when we go home? Come on, who does that? Right? Don't we? So let's make a promise to ourselves while we're here this week. If we're going to connect to someone, we're going to make a difference in someone's lives. We're going to make a difference in our lives when we make a difference in someone else's lives. I saw someone earlier today and she said, I feel uncomfortable here at Cannes because I don't know anyone. And I said, okay, let's make a promise. Meet one new person a day. So can we make a promise that we don't have to stay in our groups? We can meet one new person a day, one new person a session, and maybe make someone's life different, help transform someone's life like Adrian has done for so many of us. So many of us that I met today who said they would not be in the roles that they had, Courtney, without this program and without people like you there to support them. So let's bring on Adrian and Frank, and let's welcome the first new head of DE&I for Cannes Lions!
Thank you. All right, that's what an intro. Appreciate you. Amazing. Well, really glad to be here. I'm just going to get into it. So I'm Frank Starling. I'm VP of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion here at Cannes Lions. And I'd like to welcome you to Inkwell Beach and the International Festival of Creativity. Let's get a round of applause for that. What an amazing place to be. And today we celebrate at the picturesque shores of Inkwell Beach, now in its 5th year, where CCDC's presence at Cannes Lions continues to champion the intersections of diversity, equity, inclusion, innovation, and creativity in the industry. And CCDC's Inkwell Beach at Cannes is the first standalone activation specifically focused on elevating the conversation of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the history of the Cannes Lions Festival. I think that deserves another round of applause. I mean, that's an amazing achievement. In addition, we honor the awe-inspiring 70th anniversary of Cannes Lions. So throughout the week, we'll be celebrating 70 years of creative excellence that drives growth for business and society. And our community tells us that one of the best things about coming to Cannes is the connections you make. So I'm sure all of you are going to have a phenomenal time, building new relationships and working on existing encounters to spark new thinking. And this week and throughout the year, we're committed to providing an inclusive experience. I'd love your feedback on that over the course of the festival. Catch me if you've got any feedback. Email me, franks@canneslions.com. I'd love to hear from you all on your perspectives at the festival. And as we reflect on the 70-year legacy of Cannes Lions, we celebrate its evolution, and Inkwell Beach is a vivid embodiment of the festival's commitment to change. Here, on this beach, we magnify the voices of underrepresented communities, weaving the narratives into the fabric of this event. And Inkwell Beach serves as a catalyst for the global creative community. It's here to shatter boundaries and to create access. And in my opinion, this is where ideas are brought to life, where collaboration has the power to transcend borders, and where equity can truly flourish to spark global movements. So I want to extend my warmest welcome to all of you. It's a real privilege and pleasure to be here. Throughout your presence and contributions, we can forge this community here at the festival. We can strengthen it over time. And Inkwell Beach stands as a beacon of creativity and progress, a platform where the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion takes center stage. So today, we shine a vibrant light on the voices and experiences that are too often silenced or overshadowed. And here we're creating the platform that they rightfully deserve. So what I can say from my heart is that we are truly proud of this partnership. We're truly proud of working with CCDC. I'm new to the role. I started literally 7 weeks ago. And over that time, I'm not lost on the significance of Inkwell Beach and the significance of this partnership. So I want to welcome you to Inkwell Beach and to the Cannes Lions Festival. Let's make history together. And before I welcome Adrienne and our panelists to the stage, I want you to see a video that frames where this journey began.
There was a question up here. Oh, there. Hi, my name is Adrienne Smith. I'm from New York. I wanted to say thank you for being here and the words that you said they were really inspiring. And one thing we were talking about the entire time we've been here is like there are not a lot of people of color here, and we always talk about exposure and making it broader. So since we've been here, and you said people don't really do anything about it, they talk trash and they say we're going to make it happen. We've decided to bring 10 young people of color back next year. And this is my first year, and we were so inspired, and thanks for having us here. So,
Wow, thank you.
We're going to make sure. So you'll see us again next year with 10 people, and thanks for the reminder that you don't just talk about it, you really have to be about it. So we don't have any problems with saying, we're going to make it happen, and there are issues. We won't make it an issue. We'll make it a solution, and we're going to bring the kids here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Adrienne and our panelists to the stage. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. You guys know how I love to start Inkwell Beach every year, and I always ask, on the count of 3, I want everyone under the sound of my voice to say yes. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Ooh, that feels so great, and I need you to do it one more time. On the count of 3, I need everyone under the sound of my voice to say yes. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Thank you. And again, let me tell you what you have agreed to. You are going to celebrate with us 5 years of activating at the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity. Applause, applause. Give it to us. We made history on this stage, as Frank said, and we are so excited that you guys have come to join us and celebrate. And in the spirit of inclusion, I want to invite all of our guests to come to the stage. We have Tom Wong. We have Ryan Johnson. Tim, I called you Tom. Tim. Frank is here. And then we have our special guest, Elijah. He's going to join us as well. We impromptu in the spirit of inclusion. But really, as they take their seats, I want to just say thank you. I cannot say thank you enough to all the people who have made this happen. Judy Jackson, who was one of my day ones, who supported me with saying yes first. So thank you so much for opening it up. There's a whole IPG FCB crew who were one of my day ones who were willing to write personal checks. That was Vita Harris and Susan Cradle, who were just like, what do you need? They made personal phone calls to get people involved. Google was one of our first supporters. TV One was one of our first supporters. BBDO, I have to call them out because they are the foundation of which all of us are here for, because they started the first Fab Five, as I call them. So we want to give them a shout out. Please give them love. Give them a hand clap of praise. Also, Mike Warner, I don't know if he's out here somewhere, and I hate to be calling names because I'm going to forget everybody's name, but he's still here on the beach. There are many who started with us in the beginning. Mike is still here. Juan Woodbury, who's a Grammy Award winner. I have to say that. He's a Grammy Award winner. Who this space that you are in, the beautifulness that you see, Juan Woodbury created it. He's not here right now because he's a man of many jobs and he's a hustler, but he will be back and he will come and share the joy with us. But our volunteers who are here, I cannot say all their names, but please stand up, wave your hand. Thank you so much for being here. I have a day job. I'm the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer at Fleischman Hillard. We have a great program called FH for Inclusion, and they adopted us, and they are our agency of, agency of record, our AOR, and that crew is here from Fleischman Hillard, so thank you guys. It says a lot when an organization gives their time and resources to support inclusion. The mission at Fleischman Hillard is to be the most inclusive agency in the world. And what a better way to be an inclusive agency than supporting an organization like the Can Diversity Collective that's all about bringing in inclusion and creating space for others that have typically not been created. Who did I forget? My sponsors, you'll see them on the Step and Repeat. Love on them, share with them, connect with them. We have an amazing group of ambassadors that are here. This is cohort number 4, you guys. I want all of the ambassadors to stand up, wave around, because you are here. You are the foundation. And the future of why CCDC is here, it is so important and imperative that I tell you guys to show up and show out. Let the world know that you are here. You are the future of this industry, and don't let anyone tell you any differently. It's because of you that we are here, and we are here because of you. So, have I forgotten anything? Please forgive my heart, but you know what my intentions are. This space of the Vega Luna, you've been so kind and gracious to us for allowing us to take over your space every year. We love you, Aisha. I know you're somewhere in here, but thank you so much for that support. Group Black, who we are here with, who you see powered by Group Black, no better way to be supported by an organization who's supporting creativity, media, and all of that. Procter & Gamble, another group that has been here with us from day one. We love to thank the day ones. That means they're committed to your future. Pre-George Floyd, let's say that, because that means it was not a reactionary thing, but it was a natural thing. So all of these people that you see here with us, pre-George Floyd, this is a natural part of their imperative business, and we love and support everything that you've been doing to support us. Okay, so I think I've drawn out the introductions too long. If I forgot you, just pull me to the side and just be like, yo, Adrian. You know how y'all do with me. But I'm super excited about this panel. We have made history, and this is history. I think Judy mentioned it. Frank mentioned it. This is not even year one for Frank. This is like month one, that he is the first, hear me again, the first diversity lead of the Cannes Lions Festival. This is history because he is on the beach of the first DE&I activation in the history of Cannes Lions. We have to keep emphasizing that the work that we do creates moments like this, bringing people together. And as my mom and dad would say, and a black woman will lead them. So there you have that. We are creating the foundation and birthing ideas, birthing gifts. And I'm so proud to have these men with me who are here to talk about that spirit of inclusion and what we do. And you know what? I'm going to be totally transparent with you to say this panel was not planned. This panel is about what happens at Cannes Lions when you organically connect with people, when you listen to stories and listen to experiences, and they share with you. And this is, you know, really the beginning, and this is really the future of what Cannes Lions looks like. We have representatives from the Asian community, from the tech community, from the Hispanic community, and we are talking about what inclusion looks like when you create organic opportunities to storytell and grow. The conversation and foundation was really about how did you feel the first time you came to Cannes Lions? And I'm going to open it up to Tim so you can say why you're here. And then I have something to say about Ryan after Tim goes. So don't say anything.
Good morning, everyone. Can y'all hear me? Okay, awesome. Well, first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Adrian to really living out what it means to not just talk about it, but to be about it, because the spirit of inclusivity, I'm just warmed by your heart to be able to offer this platform for me to be able to share my story today, talking about the Asian creative and advertising experience. And sometimes what we see in this industry and also just what we've seen at Cannes. And so the question was, you know, what was my experience at Cannes? I went to the first Cannes last year. I should step back and say my background actually is in community. And so I have an advertising agency called TDW & Co. It's focused on helping to bridge the cultural communications gap between brands and the Asian consumer. And so because my background is somewhat unconventional, I've heard a lot about Cannes. I've never had a chance to go. So last year I was like, on a whim, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna show up, and I'm gonna just see what's all about. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really know anybody when I got here. I kind of landed, I didn't have cell service. I was like, where's my phone? I don't have data. What? I'm just bumming off of Wi-Fi from the Palais and the beaches just to be able to get by from beach to beach to beach. And I was really warmed by, I think, the global creative community here around what it means to use creativity and communications for good. And I was able to latch on to what seemed to be like festival veterans. And they would like, they pretty much saw me. I was like this lost puppy. They're like, come with me, child, and then just come with me from place to place to place. I couldn't help but recognize or kind of see when I was going from session to session or panel to panel, beach to beach, party to party, I really didn't see my people. Like, it was hard for me to kind of connect with my own, and I didn't really see my community being really represented. And so I took away from last year's experience. I said to myself, you know what, like, it was an amazing experience. Cannes has so much to offer. The connections, the conversations, you know, the ability to be able to be among those that are producing the best creative in the world, right? And I thought to myself, well, let's see how we can show up with more of our own community, those from the Asian community that also have this talent, also have this creativity, also have this ability to produce just amazing and beautiful work. And so because of that, what we did is we launched Stop at Nothing this year. It's a movement really celebrating the experiences of Asian creatives and advertising professionals here at Cannes. We have a cafe that we rented out. It's on Tuesday and Thursday. So if you guys have an opportunity to come by and check it out, stopatnothing.me. You can find out more information about that. But yeah, just so blessed and honored to be here and use this platform to be able to share our story. Thank you so much, Adrian, for that.
Stop at nothing and get to their cafe. So as most of you know that, and thank you for sharing the story because it's very similar to my story and my experience here. So we hope to see you hear more and grow the Asian community at Cannes Lions. And most of you know that today is Juneteenth. Celebrate Juneteenth. Everybody, a round of applause for Juneteenth. But for me, Juneteenth is more of an information dissemination problem, right? I think if however many years ago, we had the technology, we had Twitter, we had Facebook, we would have sent a message and everyone would have known they were free in 30 seconds, right? Packed up and left where we were going. But since we did not, obviously there's a gap in terms of growth, there's a gap in terms of learning and connectivity, and I personally do not want us to have another Juneteenth moment. I want us to be able to bridge the gap of information dissemination, making sure that we stay connected and there's not this lag between others and the underrepresented communities. Most of you know that this year is Cannes Lions' first year of having and hosting a gaming award, right? And I had the honor of meeting Ryan last year. I told him, you know, we are taking you under our wings and come see me on the vineyard, come see me wherever. We'll always create a stage and space for you. Ryan runs an incredible organization called Community, which is solely, and I'm gonna let him tell the story because I'm gonna butcher it, but the idea is they host a gaming platform for HBCU students and HBCUs. So, which means that and shows that we are in the game of gaming. So it was really important for me to have Ryan here to tell that story, especially from a technology standpoint, so people can see that early on, we're here, we can learn from what's happening on the main stage, and people can learn what's happening from us. They are hosting a gaming lounge at the CCDC house, and we can give you all that information. But we're in the game of gaming, and Ryan leads that movement. So Ryan, please tell them more about.
No, thank you a lot, Adrian. And first off, good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Johnson, the founder and CEO of Community Media. Our mission is around future-proofing diversity in the video game and media industries. We got started, or the statistic that got our company started, is we found out back in 2019 that nearly 83% of African-American youth play video games on a weekly basis, but at the time, only 2% of African-Americans actually worked in the video game industry. Both myself and my co-founder, we both attended HBCUs, and also in 2019, there were over 250 predominantly white institutions in North America that had gaming programs, varsity teams, scholarships, or academic tracks that were allowing students to enter into this growing and emerging space. At the same time, again, there were 0 HBCUs in 2019 that had gaming programs on their campus. So one of our first initiatives was literally launching the first gaming league in North America for historically black colleges and universities. And we've just recently completed our 3rd season where we've literally worked with these institutions. We now have about 60 different HBCUs that compete within our various programs and leagues. And we do that through all
Round of applause for that.
Yeah.
You're just like so casual, like, you know, that's a huge feat. Come on.
No, so like what's really exciting about it is that it's not just gaming. Like we really specialize in making sure that one, agencies, brands are providing opportunities to these students that are identifying as gamers. So as an example, a lot of our gamers, they get access to internships throughout the summer through our corporate sponsors. Through our corporate sponsors, we've also in the first 3 years provided over $1.5 million worth of scholarships to these students. And so honestly, this all kind of accelerated. Truthfully, my first CAN experience was actually last year as well. We recently, about a year ago, joined the group Black Collective, and then this was literally my first stage at Can Lion. And literally from that, the relationship with Adrian began to grow, develop, and connect. So like really excited to be here. Yes, to Adrian's point, we have a really, really cool gaming experience that will be happening in the evening starting tomorrow up until Thursday at the house. But yeah, that's a little bit about community media. As I mentioned, this is the first year, as Adrian mentioned, this is the first year that gaming is being recognized as a category because of the involvement of brands. And so we're just excited to have a seat at the table and have a strong influence on, especially of how gaming and brands are talking and leveraging our community for this space.
We're at the table right now. We're here now. So, our final guest, and you have to pass the mic. That's the spirit. Pass the mic. Who's representing the Hispanic community. We literally met like 5 minutes before the panel, but it's so important for me to have you here. So welcome. Tell the story, because it's similar to my story. It's similar to Tim's story, so let's hear it.
Yeah, so to be honest, the first time I heard of
Tell
cans,
them your full name, because
my name's Elijah Diaz. I have a studio called 3 Bars. Basically, we focus on being an attachment to larger agencies and brands' existing creative team. So we focus a lot on 3D, AR, VR, and alternate reality experiences. The idea is that, with 3D, you can actually do so much with one 3D file. You can bring it to a variety of different platforms, and even with the newness of AR and, even the Apple headset that's coming into play, that one file can be adapted to various different platforms for communities to be able to see, observe, or even create into advertisements or experiences. So this has been one of the things that has been my main focus. And, the other part is working with a lot of people in the Latino community. I try to hire out from diverse cultures and diverse, people that don't look like me. Or people that do look like me. I think it's very important that, for other people to help other people overcome adversity as well, is to include them into projects that are happening and things that are kind of in the moment. So my first time at Cannes, I was kind of, similar to everybody else's here. It was a little bit crazy. I came, I saw that they were having this festival, didn't know what it was. I bought a plane ticket, I came, was running to events, maybe drank a little bit too much sometimes, but it was more so to loosen up, because at the time I look around and, there weren't people that exactly look like me, and I found myself sort of a little nervous, not knowing how to begin conversations with all these men in suits, and this year, that first time was probably about 3 years ago. Now I come with a lot more confidence and more individuality and, owning that individuality. And I think, it was really important for me to come back and to try to meet other people that look like myself. And support the Black and brown community, because I think that even with all you beautiful faces here, really seeing this diversity that I haven't seen 3 years ago, it's really amazing to see what influx of, the community that you guys have been supporting, and to see how it's impacting, even just people coming here. So, I want to thank you guys again for inviting me, and, I thank you guys so much for sharing what you do, and I think it's amazing, and I appreciate you having me.
So I'm going to put Frank on the spot, because this is his first time being on a stage at the Cannes Lions Festival. So we are honored that your first time on a Cannes Lions stage is at Inkwell Beach.
Thank you.
Based off of what you've seen, what do you see as that forward-focused moment for DE&I, the spirit of inclusion? You obviously see this is what global inclusion looks like, and the power of what happens when you bring these creative minds together. Give us sort of your vision and thought about this space and this experience.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is how can we embed representation and equity into this festival? All of us know what it's like to be the only person in the room and what that feels like. one of the things I had to remind myself early on my journey in my career is that every room I walk into, I'm an equal. And that doesn't always feel obvious. So I think one of the fundamental things we want to look to in the future with partnerships with Adrian and Inkwell, with broadening what representation means at the festival, is how can we embed the true values of representation where everyone feels seen, everyone feels heard, and there's an opportunity for access, because I think that is the key thing. When we talk about equity, it's often misunderstood. What equity actually means is reducing harm. It's reducing harm to communities that have historically been marginalized and minoritized. On a positive, what building equity means is making sure that pathways exist for global communities. When I say global, when we take this word coined by Kimberly Crenshaw of intersectionality, many of us have a layer cake of lived experiences. How we show up to work, how we show up to our friendship groups, how we show up to festivals like this, it's complicated because it's based on so many different things. So in order for us to truthfully embed equity and representation, it takes conversations. Sometimes those conversations are uncomfortable, and that's okay. It takes collaboration. We have to work together. And it takes community. So, I'm not lost on how significant Inkwell Beach being here is to the Cannes Lions Festival, International Festival of Creativity, and more so the significance of what this means to the future. And I hope all of you that are attending for the first time, you feel seen, you feel heard, you feel part of this community, because you being here is a significant moment in all of our futures. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
That's great. Before I say something, do you want to contribute more to that?
If I could just say, when we talk about the global creative community and we look at the population and the demographics of the global community, it is overwhelmingly the majority people of color, people from diverse backgrounds. A lot of talk about like, hey, we are the future. No, I think actually we are the today. Our community is here, and we are the today. And so that's just something else I'd love to add to.
Yeah. And I'll just quickly add from like a global, just through our lens, some of our friends that are actually coming later today and tomorrow, as I told Adrian, there was a 5,000 in-person gaming tournament that happened over this past weekend in Nigeria. The opportunities, as we're talking about the global creator economy, especially through the lens of gaming, it's massive. One of the things, as like we study a lot of technology and work with partners like Microsoft, is as broadband and internet become more accessible, there's a projection that nearly 200 to 300 more million people will be online alone just on the continent of Africa. And so when we look at that, it's like what programs, what type of partnerships are going to have to exist already to be able to really, because this is not something that's developing, it's like literally happening. It happened. And so like as we look at that, it's like what can we do in these ecosystems, in these forums, to create programs for not the future but the now, because the time is here. And I think the connectivity of the internet is making these things more accessible, but one, we just have to find out about it. And so these platforms like Cannes are a massive opportunity to have these conversations and discussions.
That's amazing. You were going to say something?
Absolutely. I think one of the big things is, Cannes really provides, a looking point for a lot of creatives in underserved communities and all over the world specifically. One of the reasons why I try to work with a lot of Hispanic people in various different places is that, they don't really get the opportunity to work on certain projects. So whether it be something that's a little bit bigger or something that just gets them in the door, I really love working with them because, we can connect on a level where, they weren't able to with other people they were reaching out to, or the DMs they were sending, the messages they were messaging on LinkedIn and they didn't get replies. It's some of the things that like it's really humbling for me because I really get to see a lot of people sort of grow themselves and gain confidence. They're not like, oh, my work is just horrible. No, it's not. It's just that it's not getting seen. So being able to provide that platform and, for other people that have provided the platform for me as well, even being here, it has definitely helped. And, I can go back and go show the people that work with me, where we are right now, and this is something that they can look up to want to come next year or the following year, and then tell their community as well in their home countries. So I think this is very important to have this sort of stage, and to also have this like platform for them to continuously move and have people that they can look up to and look forward to, like yourselves as well. Posting the content, posting that you're here, posting that you guys are making the connections that you otherwise wouldn't, because of this community, is very important. Because even for myself, I've seen people that were in my community. My father has a fashion background. So being able to see him going a lot to the shows such as like Agenda, Project New York, all these things before, Project Las Vegas, he was flying back and forth from Japan. It was one of those things that like kind of set the stage for me, and to see other people that were in his community as well, really kind of make it out of, Queens and Brooklyn, from, they were first gen, so they didn't know anything about the industry. So seeing in their respective industries, them being able to grow kind of gave me that platform. So I feel like it's only my duty to do the same for other people.
I love the idea of give back. And two things, I know both of you are in the tech world, and what's happening right now is the AI movement, ChatGPT, and a lot of the information that comes out is still a little biased in terms of the type of information that is produced. If we're looking from sort of this global perspective, this new technology that seems to be, it is sort of taking over, what are you guys doing from a technology standpoint, or even from a DEI perspective, leaders from your community, to make sure that that messaging is still, or now, or is more diverse in terms of, and more inclusive in terms of the messages that are being reproduced and recycled?
Yeah, I'll start and pass. I think ethical AI is going to be like a huge topic. It is a topic now. I think through the lens of us, though, it's about exposure and awareness. What we found overwhelming is that, well, let me say this, exposure and awareness, and then also access to product. So what we found, especially when we're based in Atlanta, Georgia. We work very heavily in the Atlanta public schools. There's an overwhelming amount of students that want to get into computer science, that want to get into STEM, but literally they don't have the devices at home, and or the schools may not have the proper technology on site to actually teach them. And a lot of this is replicated up K through 12, also somewhat to the university level. So our version now of kind of like fighting that is, one, with our collegiate students and also our young professional network, helping bridge that gap immediately for those who have some of the credentials and skills but may not have the doors open, to get them in the doors, to get the jobs, to have the conversations, to then say, hey, look, you all are writing this line of code. Did you know that this line of code will impact this entire zip code of people, because you're unnaturally thinking about, hey, this is not a well part of town or something along those lines. And at a younger age, we partner with groups like the Boys and Girls Club of America, and we do like aftercare and weekend programs to actually teach young kids who love Fortnite about, how do you build, this is architecture. I don't know if a lot of folks know now, but within games like Fortnite, you can completely design and build levels. As an example of that, young people are starting LLCs, and they're being hired by corporations to design in-game worlds to then play branded environments inside of video games. So there's this whole new economy from a tech creator and just, pure business and marketing standpoint that we're really trying to produce and introduce to these young people. But to your point, though, for us, we've just recognized the largest gap is literally access to product. One thing I want to call out, a lot of times people ask, like, why do we spell community with an X? What we've found is that usually the biggest separation when we talk about the lens of gaming is those who grow up having access to consoles versus those who have access to computers. And so for us, we want to be inclusive of the entire gaming space, and X is the only button that's across the Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, and of course a keyboard. So that's like one of our main reasons why we wanted to kind of tap into this space. But that's just like our perspective, how we look at and like how we're looking to like bridge that gap.
That was cool. Very cool. Thank you. Because we always ask, why do they spell it with X? But now we know. Okay.
Ryan, to add to your point, I think it's an amazing source that you're providing for a lot of the community. One of the things I really do appreciate is the fact that you mentioned that, you're making it more accessible for the community in the first place. I think the first step is showing the people the door and then letting them walk up the steps and open it. One of the things that I've seen a lot is with open source software, you know, similar to AI, DALI, and, you know, ChatGPT, I think it does provide another platform of learning for a lot of the community, because, you know, you're not just asking Google, and, you know, you're not just getting a biased answer from one person to the other. I feel like, you know, the ability to train the AI to your sort of needs is also very helpful. You know, there definitely is some bias, you know, and that's a larger discussion. But, you know, even as a resource for people that have been asking me in my community, you know, younger people, they're asking me, oh, how does this work? How does this work? I'm like, you know, I don't show them to, you know, to Google, go to Google. I ask them, well, did you check ChatGPT? Did you ask your specific question? And, you know, formulate what your plan is, and then come to me, and then we can work on it together. So it kind of gives them more of an opportunity to have a template for themselves, so they can come at face value and really feel confident in what they're bringing me, and also I can help them get to the next level. So I really appreciate, you know, the fact that open source software has been, you know, really great for the community, because, for example, Blender. Blender is an open source software. A lot of people in the gaming community use it for Roblox and all these different platforms that young children are building on. And the funny thing is that a lot of these kids are making money off gaming. You know, whether it's selling wearables, you know, like little characters that they like in the game. You know, and parents sometimes have their credit cards on there, and they're spending tons of money. So it's really nice to see like that a lot of younger kids are getting into the space, and then really allowing us to sort of explore the open source community, because, you know, Blender does have a large variety of YouTube videos and how do you say this, lessons and stuff, how to use the program in general. So I think open source software is very beneficial, and I think used correctly can really help the community in underserved areas.
Well, we have a few minutes left, and I always think it's, you know, in these open communities is being able to create voice and allow people to ask questions. Anyone have a question that is just pressing on you that you would really have this opportunity to ask this global representation of people for our panel? Anyone? Yes? No, come grab a mic, please. You can have my mic, one of these mics, yeah.
Thank you so much. Good morning, panelists, audience members. Emmanuel Reed, Ogilvy, Chicago, also one of the 2023 Can Diversity Collective ambassadors. My question is about really globalization and integration. There's a young lady here, I don't think she's here, oh, Danny, she's a CEO and founder of a program, Refer a Black Woman, based out of Brazil. But it's all about connecting black women to the white space in the creative communities and the creative cultural environments in Brazil, which she saw lacked black women. For all of you up here who seem to have an idea of how to scale as founders and then as well as executive members, what is it like, and what's been your processes for your respective organizations about remembering the goal, but also being aware of how to actually, when you scale this is going to attract different communities. Each of you have your various lived experiences and backgrounds, which you spoke to. But Ryan, for example, when you're talking about the gaming industry globally, this question isn't for you, it's for all, but just for an example, when you're talking about integrating the future of video gaming in the continent of Africa, obviously that might be different from your HBCU Black American experience. So as each of you talk about globalization of your spaces and your industries, I'm curious, as you know, all of us in our respective spaces want to remember obviously from where we come, but also then when you're talking about really getting your businesses in front of the people that matter and in front of the funding that matters, you have to, you know, entertain more conversations about integration and so how that would affect your business. I think would be really appreciated.
So maybe I'll start and can pass along. So that's a wonderful question. Thank you. I'd say we're still in the process of trying to figure that out ourselves. I mean, to be very honest, I think that after coming back from Cannes last year, I had mentioned that, you know, we wanted to show up this year providing a safe space for our community to gather. This is the global stage. This is the place to do it. We want to be out here and show up. And we didn't really know like how it'll be received, but we've received an overwhelming response of support. I mean, Adrian hearing our story and sharing us our space here. We're going to be speaking at Meta Beach later. Brand Innovators is also sharing some of our panels. We have a panelist, Michelle Wong, who's going to be speaking at WPP Beach in like an hour and a half. You know, we have like so much support from the community that wants to embrace this and endorse our story and amplify. And who knows where it'll go. It was funny, we were talking a little bit about this last night. I was like, this is not an organization, it's kind of a movement. Should it be an organization in the future? Should it be a 501c3 and see where it goes into the future? We don't know, but we're just learning, I think, in our first year of just what kind of appetite people have. We do know that there's a need, and just see how this can be, you know, fulfilling that need. So, yeah.
Do you want me to go? Yeah, sure. So before my role at Cannes Lions, I was CEO of a global diversity, equity, and inclusion organization called Variety Pack, something I founded about 5 years ago. And to speak to your question, there's a lot of complexity to that. I think firstly, it starts with having a global strategy. You know, what are the key values and key pillars that we are trying to integrate into every single territory across the globe? But that's the kind of high level, because that's where it gets more detailed. When you look at level down, we focus on this word of localization. Everything we do has to be localized to communities. There's cultural nuance there. There's ethnography. There is the real study of an understanding of what is important to those global communities and how can messages be relevant and how can access be democratized. And to go back to Ryan's point in terms of closing the access gap, when we think about innovation, it has to be inclusive. So when we attach this word equity to innovation, what that fundamentally means are the builders in the process are also formed of underrepresented communities, and the outcomes of innovation helps to amplify those same communities. So it's really thinking about it from a strategic perspective and knowing that in order for you to credibly, you know, have a globalized brand that is localized to each market, you know, it takes a lot of understanding in terms of what is important to these communities, and more importantly, how can we, with all integrity, show up for these communities in the best way possible when innovating and creating amazing new ideas.
Yeah, and I'll add in, even kind of like leaning to your example, you know, how we found success this far is honestly through partnerships and then transparent and somewhat difficult sometimes conversations. As an example, even when we're talking about Africa, you know, Africa for us is not successful if our partners and I don't figure out how we make that successful to bridge that gap. Because to your point, we don't have the cultural insights. We don't really have the community that we've built in North America. And that's actually how we've gotten to this part this far. You know, we had an idea, we have a mission, we have a vision, and we were fortunate that early on, Amazon and Twitch actually bought into that vision. So from our lens, we actually were able to get somewhat national and global distribution of our story and our message through a platform of Twitch and actually live streaming. So for us within community, our three main, I would say, audiences are African American and underrepresented folks in North America, within Africa, and then also we have a very, very strong fan base in the Philippines, ironically enough. And so we're actually able to bridge all of these communities together through our Discord server. And so over time, you know, you have these groups interacting with each other online all week, literally Americans, Africans, Filipinos, and the shared interest is the lack of access to gaming in their various communities, in their own various situations and circumstances. And we're just fortunate when we broadcast live from Atlanta through our Twitch platform, you know, it may be different times, but people in North America, Africa, and Philippines are actually able to receive, connect, and actually understand. And so for us, it's a long, long journey, but that's how we've done it this far. And so, like, literally, we lean on partnerships for a lot of the things that we do, also hence how we ended up being a partner of Inkwell, and just also trying to figure out how do we bring these entire collectives forward, you know, as we're building and growing.
Anyone else? Yeah.
To be honest, like, this is my first year really, you know, taking, you know, these first couple of years have been my real step forward to pulling myself into the Latino community. You know, a lot of the times, like, I felt like I had to adapt a lot. So I feel like one of the things that I've been more focused on is, you know, coming to these events and being more an inclusive environment. Because, you know, as you guys have started, you know, your own sort of sections and have been growing, that's something that I want to start doing, and it's something that I think is very important. One thing that I have started was, I've been reaching out to a lot of the people at Dumbo House in New York City. And my whole goal is to bring a lot of people that are in the creative community and kind of show them the different ropes and the different avenues that people have to sort of gain access to, connections and network, and even from anything from invoicing and learning how to grow your own personal brand. It's more of a, what's it called? On the ground type work, but it's something that is really important to me and I would like to sort of push into the future.
Okay, as we wrap up, because I got the sign of 10 more minutes, and we're only going to take 5 of those. What we've heard here is the importance of community, and we've heard the importance of being forward-focused in terms of our thinking. Not about the future, because it is about now, but how are we forward-focused in terms of building community and making change happen. Our next steps would be, if you had a next step leaving here, to push the forward-focused movement of inclusion, of making sure that what you see now and an extension of us is the forward-focused movement. What is your next step for 2024?
Adrian, I'm completely humble, blessed, honored to be here, because I just feel that your spirit of inclusivity really shows through. And I think that, for us, we'd love to just continue to have more engagement with not just the Asian community, but allyship, just our brothers and sisters from other cultures and other communities, and just have those shared experiences, between each other, being able to learn from one another. So that's
Awesome.
probably the next step.
Okay, what's your next step?
So I think for us, it's
2024.
2024, spreading it forward. We talked about this on the Vineyard. We tried to figure it out this year. It didn't work out, which is fine. Next year, we will bring HBCU students, and we will do a gaming tournament. That is a goal. That is a
So
goal.
we do have 3 here.
Yeah.
So they're going to be included, too, in your project.
Yeah,
So
we
we're committed
actually,
to them.
Yo, actually, one of my Alpha brothers out here, I just met him from NCAT, which is dope. But no, that is actually like a big goal and aspiration, especially as gaming is going to continue to grow at the festival. We definitely want to make sure that we have representation, not only in panelists and business, but also show the competitive side of that as well. So help us. We'll be here. We would love to do it on the Inkwell stage.
Done. We're holding you accountable. Hold us accountable. Next year will be the first HBCU tournament, gaming tournament,
Here.
happening at Inkwell. If you don't do it, don't ever come see us again. Okay, no.
We're going to make it happen.
Make it happen. Go.
Well, firstly, I want to pick up Adrian. Kudos to you. Kudos to the work. Kudos to what you achieved. I think it's phenomenal. From my perspective, I'm focusing on our strategy at Cannes Lions, and that's going to be a big part of the next few months. So I'm excited to dive into that. And with that, I want to be able to collaborate. So, when you have ideas, when you have perspectives, do come to me, do approach me, and I look forward to seeing you at future festivals. So.
Wonderful. 2024 commitment. Go. Yeah, thank you.
So 2024, I did reach out to some people at Cannes Lions and, was mentioning that I would love to put a Latino community panel together. I think that would be amazing to have a lot of people come and kind of share their story from, our background and sort of connect with the rest of the community.
So I want to thank our panelists, but before we walk off the stage, I want to emphasize our message and our theme this week is expect the unexpected. And hopefully you got some unexpected gifts from this panel. We say expect the unexpected. We want to move from the woe is me to the wow is me of DE&I. So please be an evangelist from moving from woe to wow. And that's what we're doing here. And 2, let me just say that, Inkwell Beach and the spirit of Inkwell was all committed on a foundation of love and love of community. And I say love intentionally. If anybody's in that, if you can knock, you're standing next to that symbol, can you knock on the door? And there's a woman in there. Her name is Love Malone. Yeah. Her name is Love Malone. Love. So I'm telling the story, Love, because the spirit of Inkwell is built off of love for community, love for inspiration, love for inclusion. And it's Love's fault that all of this really, I'm giving her full credit, because I came to Cannes Lions for the first time with love, right? With the love of actual name and love in spirit of, our community. And on that was being able to found and bring more people, the first 5 to 25, to this beach a global community. We have a representative from Singapore this year, from Brazil. Last year we had Africa, we had North America. We're a global community, right? And we want you guys to continue to be evangelists for us. And I want to thank Love for creating this moment for me, because I tagged along on her trip. She was a part of a program that I ran at Howard University. She excelled and became a global director at BBDO, a global director at Ogilvy, and she's a superstar. Please connect with her. She has a company called The Gradient, which is an organization that helps connect talent. They also hosted the platform for our Inclusion Awards, which is tonight. We are the only organization that hosts an Inclusion Awards. You know, somebody said, you don't ask for permission, you ask for forgiveness. We created an Inclusion Awards because Cannes Lions does not do it. So the Can Diversity Collective is hosting our AYA Inclusion Award tonight at Inkwell Beach. We encourage you all to come back. I thank you, Love, for the inspiration. I thank you all for joining us on this first panel and great kickoff of the 5th anniversary of the Can Diversity Collective's Inkwell Beach. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys. We are the forward-focused movement of Cannes Lions.
Amazing.
And let me say, coming up next, we have an exciting panel that's being hosted by Google. So please stay. We have special guests. It's going to be an exciting panel.
Just secured a friend BA project with Drake. So we're doing like a huge activation.
Dude, let me get your information. Do you leave the mics? Okay.
Hello, hello, everyone. We're going to get right into our next session. So if everyone wants to get seated again, we can get things going. I'm not. Courtney, I'm not loud enough. Please do it. What am I saying? Tell everyone we're going to get right into the next session if everyone wants to sit down. If you can hear me, clap once. We could do better than that. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. That was weak. We can do better. We're going to start our next panel session shortly. So if you guys don't mind, find your seats. Come on up to the front. I know the sun's out. Get a little tan. It's going to feel good. We got water. Everybody, please take your seats. Take your seat, take your seat. Can I go get you, Mike? You get your lip gloss. Yes. We're gonna bring you in the back to get your mic.
Let's dance. Dance to blues. Let's dance to the sound they're playing on the radio. Let's sway. White collar lights up your face. Let's sway. Sway through the crowd to an empty space. If you say run, I'll run with you. If you say hide, we'll hide. Because my love for you will break my heart in two. Let's dance for fear your grace should fall. Let's dance for fear tonight is all. Let's sway. You could look into my eyes. Let's sway under the moonlight, the serious moonlight. If you say run, I run with you. If you say hide, we'll hide. Because my love for you will break my heart in two. If you should fall into my arms and tremble like a flower.
program is about to begin.
Nobody can hear you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program is about to begin.
Nobody can hear you. Testing, testing.
Hello,
Ladies
hello.
and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program is about to begin.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Please take your seats as the show is about to begin, as our friend over here was letting you guys know. Please sit down. Please sit down. All my friends by the bar, the water bar, please sit down. How's everyone doing? Okay, try that again. How's everyone doing? All right. All right, everybody, we're going to kick this off. We're about to get started by our next panel that is sponsored by Google. I'm going to be joined up here, and I'm happy to introduce Valicia Butterfield-Jones, who's the VP of Diversity, Partnerships, and Engagements at Google, and this man who needs no introduction, D. Nice.
Hey, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's going on? Okay, so she said it was a performance, but I think it's more like a conversation between just us friends. Would you agree?
Yes. We've known each other for like how many? Like over 2 decades.
Over 2 decades.
Yes.
We've been real friends. And in today's conversation, I first just want to say it's an honor and truly a blessing to be sitting here in this space with each of you for what I believe to be such a time in our history. So before we begin, I first want to just say happy birthday.
Thank you.
Let's give it up for Dee's birthday.
Oh wait, we have walking music now.
Bye.
Shout out to the sound guy.
Okay.
A little birthday song. That's
Birthday vibes. Also, happy Father's Day,
Yes,
Dee,
yes.
and to all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. And happy Juneteenth.
I think that's like the best part about my birthday.
Right?
Is that I'm fortunate enough to share it with such a legendary day for us people. So I was born on June 19th at 11:11 a.m. So I was supposed to do something great. I was definitely supposed to do something great with my life.
It's giving emancipation.
Absolutely.
It's giving liberation.
Yes, all of those
It's
things.
giving all the things. And what a time it is to be here at Cannes Lions Festival celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Inkwell Beach stage. So let's give it up for Inkwell.
Yes.
And so we at Google wanted to have a conversation between us friends about, at this time, the role of music and technology at the intersection of disruption and owning our own narrative. And I think it's fitting, Dee, for us to be at the Inkwell Beach stage at Cannes for a powerful conversation about owning your narrative, especially at this time for each of us, both individually and collectively as a community. So, Dee, first, how does it feel in this moment to be sitting here celebrated for not only a breakthrough that you had during the pandemic, but for a 30-year meteoric rise in the entertainment industry?
So one, I do want to shout out the Inkwell. I vacation on Martha's Vineyard every year. So like I go to the Inkwell every year, like the Inkwell. So like to have this here, out here in Cannes is like amazing. As far as how does it feel, I'll be honest with you, like I've been in the music industry obviously for like over 3 decades as a recording artist, and then I started a creative services agency for 10 years, and I left that and became a DJ. And you know, you could never prepare for like what happened during the pandemic. So I don't really celebrate it, what's happening in my life, because it even though the music and everything was pure, still, it's like the way that that part of my life came was such a, it wasn't about me. It belongs to everyone, you know. So, you know, I feel good about it, but there are some times when it feels a bit heavy, because I gotta, when I see people out, everyone shares their COVID stories with me, and I listen, but it's heavy. You know, when you hear people talking about, you know, they wanted to commit suicide, but then they found this community and they heard the music and they danced together. When you hear those stories, it's heavy. It's heartwarming, but it's definitely heavy. So there's sometimes I feel good about it, and then there's sometimes where I'm just like, I just flow with it, you know?
Thank you for being honest about the heaviness of it, because I think for many of us, and if you agree, please let us know, but the pandemic was heavier than we thought. I think for years we're going to be unpacking the trauma, the sadness, the fear that so many of us felt with the unknown. I know I for sure, you know, felt that. So how do you think you were able to connect on such a deep level during such a difficult time? And I say that because there were a lot of people spinning music on Instagram. There were a lot of great, amazing DJs who we know and love, like doing great things. But there is something about like what you brought into the space that was so different and so needed. Like we didn't know we needed it, but you were like a light in a sea of darkness. So how do you think, or why do you think you were able to connect on such a deep level?
I think I was able to connect because I felt the same way that everyone else did. You know, like I moved to Los Angeles 1 year before the pandemic. I moved, which is so crazy. 2020 was technically supposed to be my last year of DJing. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, I'm over it.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was tired of fighting for position. As you get older, ageism really exists. You know, like you start getting older in our entertainment industry. And I was definitely tired of like fighting. And I was like, all right, you know what? I had an opportunity to get into film and television production. So I moved to LA for that with no family there. So when the pandemic happened, I was in LA by myself. You know, so I had no food. I literally had nothing. I'm not making this up. I went to the store. I went to Ralph's. I went to Whole Foods. People had broken into everything. I had no toilet paper. I had nothing. So the music wasn't just saving other people's lives. It was saving my own. You know, that's what kept me focused. So when you ask me why did it resonated because I felt like everyone else. You know, every comment that people said, it's what I was feeling. You know, and when I was hungry, you know, people like Chris Spencer and his wife, they would send food in Ubers. And, you know, so when I say it's about community, it really is about community. That's why I don't feel like I own anything. It's like we all did this together.
I was just going to say, I think the community of it all really was just access, right? Jonathan on my team and I joked earlier that, like, Club Quarantine was the first club that everyone could get in, right? Like, there was no VIP.
There was no cover charge. You didn't need ID.
No ID.
But you know what's so crazy? Like, by day 3, DJ Envy called me, and he was like, yo, this is the first time in my life that I was ever able to dance with my family. Yes. You know, and like I never forgot that. With every song that I played, I always remembered what he said, which is why I didn't play like too much explicit language. Like I tried to keep it as clean as possible because people were quarantined at home with their families. You know, like, and I wanted to make sure that whatever I played was something that everyone can dance to.
So D is probably one of, if not the most kind people that I know. And anyone that knows him knows that it's very real, it's very genuine, and very authentic. But what I found during this experience that I witnessed you having was the art and the science of Club Quarantine, yes. Right? So D, you know, he's like, yeah, it felt good, it was authentic, and it was all of those things. You had everyone from First Lady Michelle Obama in the room, to Joe Biden in the room, to Halle Berry, you name it. But there was also a science, right? Like I
Yes.
think about the business behind Club Quarantine that you built. I hope I'm not overstating this, but I believe at the point of breakthrough, you were in conversations with major companies,
Yes.
negotiating major deals. So can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about the science of that?
Well, the science of it was look, Michelle Obama didn't just happen to pop into my IG. You know, like even when you saw the video of me, like, oh, Michelle Obama's in here. I wasn't nervous because she was in there. I was trying to remember the song that she loved.
Shout out to Stephanie. Shout
Exactly.
out to Christy.
Shout out to the crew, Ashley, Stephanie. Club Quarantine happened because the real story of it is it's about being nice to people, being kind to people. You know, oh my gosh, you're here. The Inkwell, come on now. Ah, oh my gosh, I will be there for 2 weeks, Martha's Vineyard. I can't wait to see you. But the story really, the story actually started on Martha's Vineyard. I'm not lying. Like I was walking down. I never really tell this publicly because this is part of like the book of like sharing the story on how this happened, how beautiful it is.
Yes, book.
But like, yeah, I was walking down Circuit Ave on Martha's Vineyard, and a gentleman stopped me, and you know, we talked. I never asked him what he did. You know, you don't do that on Martha's Vineyard. You're there. You just talk. You share. My daughter Dylan was playing with his daughter, and I just conversed with he and his wife, and that was like August of 2019, and you know, the following 6 months later or 8 months later, when the pandemic hit, day 3 of CQ. He called me and was like, hey, when we met, I didn't tell you I worked at Instagram. So my thing is, like, just imagine had I been rude to that guy. You know what I mean? Like, while we were out there on the island, while we were on the vineyard, rather, had I not been kind to him, then none of this happens. You know what I mean? Like, being able to, I actually called and asked Michelle Obama to come on my IG Live. But that happens because I had the relationship with them, because I would always DJ for them. You know, Felicia was part of the reason why I was able to DJ for a lot of these candidates, you know, and I've done a lot of work with them, you know, from being surrogates to playing parties. And, you know, had I not been kind to them, then none of this happens. Then the world is different, you know. What's up, Aaron? What up? Got the whole MV crew in here. But no, seriously, it's really about being kind to people.
It's so interesting, too, because I just look around the room and I see so many influential people. I see Tiffany R. Warren. I see Londell McMillan. I see Jason Lee. I see Adonis Spicer. I see so many decision makers, really everyone in this room. And I think about, to your point, the spaces I've been blessed to be in, and it's like working for President Obama, working for the Grammys, working for Google now. And I really feel like it's our responsibility when we occupy these spaces to open the door for talent that is deserving, right? So when you say that I helped connect those dots, it was really because it's like preparation meets opportunity. Yes. Like you'd been killing it for years, and it was just, you know, I was now in a space to create better access, and so it's something I take seriously, and you know that. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about pivoting. I remember when we first met, I was a law student at North Carolina Central University School of Law. Do you remember this?
I definitely remember that.
Straight out of Wilson, North Carolina. I'm a country girl, so being here is wild, by the way. And then D was world-renowned rapper deciding what you were going to do next. Let's talk about it.
So for me in my rap career, I started in 2000. Oh, not even 2000. I'm over here giving you like my
90s,
DJ career.
90s.
I started in 1986 with a group called Boogie Down Productions.
I was just a baby.
BDP. You said you were a baby. Yes. I was 15 years old. By the time I was 22 years old, I was considered old school, you know, and I had to figure out what was next, you know, when the clapping, when the applause stopped, like, what do you do? And that was a difficult time for me, you know, like I lost everything. And what's so crazy is I was just in Queens last week. Last week I played the Apollo Spring Gala, and I went to my old neighborhood, and I was showing my friends. I was like, man, I remember when, in the early 90s when I lost everything, and I would get like my royalty checks. I didn't have a bank account. I would go over to the check cashing place to cash the check, like I was trying to figure life out. We weren't really prepared for that, so the pivot has always been real to me. I've always been honest, and I share with people. I've had my story is amazing. Coming into this business at 16, and I learned how to produce records, and I learned how to write, and write for other artists and produce for other artists. And then when I lost everything, what really saved my life was technology. I started producing websites. Like, people didn't even know it. Like, the first Alicia Keys site, Diary of Alicia Keys, I built that. I coded that myself. Like, people don't even know. Like, Alicia will tell you, I had to convince her to, like, have a diary online for people to go back. And she was like, no, nobody's ever going to go back to this. And then one day we were at a party together around, maybe this was about 6 or 7 years ago, and she said to me, she was like, we pretty much created Twitter, right? I was like, yeah, like nobody was doing that, when that album was out. But I mean, I did everyone's site from Reebok to Luther Vandross when he was alive, Annie Lennox, every artist site I was building, but no one knew it. But and thank God that, to me, creativity doesn't just stop with like music. I've always felt like if I'm able to make a record, then I should be able to take a picture, or I should be able to build a website, or I should be able to build whatever. And that pivot has always been real to me.
I remember that. Dee was not only a computer programmer who would spend hours and hours and days and nights and wouldn't sleep until you like built that site for major brands, but also photography. Aaliyah, the late Aaliyah. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Got my camera with me. I shot a lot of campaigns. I did some Aaliyah work, but with Aaliyah, I actually built the last Aaliyah website and the website for Black Round Records. As a photographer, I shot campaigns for Grey Goose to Nike. The crazy thing about the Nike campaign, though, Nike asked me, the execs at Nike asked me to go out and shoot like these basketball courts in New York City, like all of the legendary basketball courts. And I went out, I photographed them, but I was smart enough to retain the rights to all of my images, because I just felt like, Getty Images started somehow, you know what I mean? Like, it had to be someone's vision, so I was smart enough to retain my images. And the crazy thing happened was, like, NBA All-Star ended up in New York City the year after I shot it, and then they had to license those images again. And so I just learned early on about the power of, like, ownership and just branding yourself that way.
So you're talking about the power of ownership, and it reminds me of a conversation that I had the other day with a good friend who's also here, another legend in the room, Brandon Marshall. And the power of the pivot from sports, as an example, to building a multimedia platform, or many of us here who have transitioned and had several chapters or lives within this one journey. So let's talk a little bit about the hardship, right? Like, I think we talk a lot about the pivot and it sounds sexy, right? Like, oh, I was a DJ. Oh, okay, I built, websites, but not enough about the struggle in the pivot. So can you break down for a second what in those moments, like the fear, the hurt, the pain, whatever it was, actually motivated you instead of like breaking you down? Or did it do both?
I don't want to say that it was fear involved in it at all. Like, it goes back to like the way that I grew up. I didn't grow up in a household with my parents. Like, I was talking to my daughter the other day. My daughter she's 27 and she's one of my attorneys now. And
shout out to Ashley.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up the way that she did. I grew up like a little kid. I was a latchkey kid. I was on like buses at 7 years old going to school, coming home, and I had to be at home like before the sun was down, before sunset, Like, I can't even imagine. I have an 11-year-old daughter. I can't imagine her being outside doing the stuff that I was doing when I was 7, 8 years old. But it truly built character, though, for me during that time. You know, so I never really, I don't have a fear of anything. Like, no one ever told me to not climb that tree. I climbed the tree and I fell, cracked open my head, you know, but I was good though. I was like, yo, I knew not to climb it that same way the next time, you know. So I don't really have a fear when it comes to anything. Like, I just believe, like, this is my life. I got one life. It's all I know about, and I wanna make the best of it. I want to do as much as possible. I want to have that experience, but also I want to be able to share that experience with other people to inspire them to do great things. Now, to go back to your question about the hardship, absolutely, it was hard. I can't lie. You know, there were times when I risked it all, and I lost everything. I had to start all over. As a matter of fact, going from web development to DJing wasn't easy, because as a DJ, no one wanted to hire me, but I felt like that's where I wanted to be. At the time, I was still running my web development company, but I was so passionate about the music that I just let it all go. I was like, no, I need to do music. There's something that's drawing me to music. And I went into debt. I had to figure this out. If I want to do music, I'm going to be dedicated to it. And thank God that I did. You know, there's no CQ without, and by the way, I will say this. Look, Club Quarantine, the idea of this virtual party, look, has it changed my life? Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and lie. But it changed my life in a very good way. It was the first time in my entire career that I felt like I can authentically be myself. Like, I wanted to do good things for people. You know, when CQ started, I had deals on the table that was well over $3 or $4 million in the first week, and I took no one's money. Not that I didn't need the money. I just didn't want the money that way. I wanted to play the music for people, you know? So, like, that's what my life has been about. Like, what am I going to do for people? And if I win, cool. We win together. But at the end of the day, my conscience is clear, and I'm happy with everything that I've done.
All money ain't good money, right? Can I ask you anything?
Anything.
All right, y'all, buckle up. Let's
Let me
talk
drink
about
real quick.
love. Not necessarily your love life, but for many of us, and if you can relate, let me know, when you operate from a place of like real purpose, real intention, right? Like many of us are just that A-type, go hard, all the way, I'm gonna run into a wall for my dreams, right? Who can relate? That comes with a cost. Yeah. Sometimes it is misunderstood. Sometimes it requires a lot of hard decisions. Am I gonna take this trip or spend time with my loved ones? And sometimes that light can be so bright, because I would imagine that we in this room know our purpose. We know what we want to do. We've set our North Star, and that's hard for maybe family or partners who haven't found their own. So how have you navigated love or even loss personally as you've navigated this like extremely successful career?
There were two things that happened in my career where I just lost the feeling for like romance. Not that I didn't believe in it, but it was, I can point out those two things. One was when my music career was over. I remember walking down the street and this little kid was like, everybody's like, yo, that's D-Nice. He was like, man, that's not D-Nice. D-Nice always had his hair cut. But I had lost all my money, so I couldn't afford a haircut. So I ended up going to buy some clippers, and then I'll shave my head bald before I was actually bald, you know. Like now my hair doesn't grow the same way. But that was a real moment for me though. Like that was a tough moment of what fame can do. You can have fame and you know, you can try to still feel hot, but there's someone out in the streets that'll remind you like, yo, you're not hot right now. I never wanted to feel that again. I was like, I never wanted whatever it was that I was going to do wasn't going to be based on someone telling me who I am. I needed to know who I am, and that was a serious moment for me. Being in relationships were extremely tough for me because there's nothing that I wanted more than to be successful. Like I wanted that, and I sacrificed everything because of that. And when you think about Club Quarantine, I'm only using that because that's the latest thing that happened. But the part that hurt the most for me when I was sitting at home when the world stopped, which is crazy because I did not want romance because I was like, no, I'm doing this. I can deal with that later. But when the world stopped and I was sitting in that apartment in downtown Los Angeles and I was by myself, that was the loneliest that I've ever felt in my life. So a lot of this happened because I was feeling that way. Do I want to feel that way now? Absolutely not. I believe that you should be able to share all of these incredible things in your life with a partner or with your family. But I just didn't know that, growing up. I didn't recognize that. I just wanted what I wanted, I just wanted to not just be successful. I just wanted to get out and do whatever it was that I loved.
So thinking about how to diversify, your business or your portfolio, I think about, how you just seem to keep driving new streams of revenue during such an exciting moment. So can you talk about the importance of that? I think about all the time, right? So many of us have a great career, great job, but tomorrow, right? Someone could decide that it's over, right? Or some of us who are entrepreneurs and founders, the clients could dry up. The funding could dry up. So I'm just curious to know how important it is for you to have multiple streams of revenue, how I watch you continue to diversify and expand your business, and why is that important to you to do right now?
So part of it happened, a lot of the things that I've experienced happened before the quarantine, obviously. About 7 or 8 years ago, I sat down with a gentleman named Troy Carter. He used to manage Lady Gaga, and Troy's a big investor, invested in Uber, invested in all of these things. And, I was thinking about I wasn't making the amount of money that Troy did, but I wanted to do something with what I had. And I called him, and once again, just being kind to people. Troy's like, bro, you're D-nice. Come to my office. Let's talk. And I sat down with Troy, and it was the first time. I didn't grow up knowing anything about investing. That wasn't what was taught to me, Like I said, I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. So investing was not one of those things that anyone ever brought up to me. So it was pretty foreign to me. But when I sat down with Troy in his office and, he showed me everything. He had this whole incubator room with all of these people that were developing these apps. And I was like, man, this is crazy. So I had some money saved. And instead of buying new cars and a bunch of jewelry, I was like, I'm going to invest this. Had I not invested, I probably would have been hurt during COVID. The investments actually kept me going. Where I didn't have to put a cash app up. I didn't have to ask anybody for anything. Yeah, because I had invested, and I talk about this all the time on my Instagram. I tell people, I probably overshare because I'm like, look, I just invested in this. You should get involved. I'm in everything, from apps to Stripe to, I'm in a cognac now, which is so crazy. Which, I used to be an ambassador for a cognac, and now I'm a partner in one, and it all started because I started asking these questions, throughout the years, and people were always willing to share that information. So to me, I pay it forward. I get on my IG and I talk about it and try to inspire people to diversify and get involved in other things.
He's gonna kill me, but I see another legend in here, Richelieu Dennis. Don't kill me, Rich. Just gotta say, what's up? We love ya.
Look, I asked Rich Lou questions too.
I know. I mean, Rich just should just pull up a chair.
Nah, well, let me even say this about Essence though. Seriously, like I know there are a lot of women out here right now, and what up, Rich?
We love you.
So the thing that's so beautiful about Essence, last year I played Essence main stage, and they couldn't bring me back for the main stage twice, But what we ended up doing was like, they gave me one of the after parties every night, so I could do my Club Quarantine live after dark with Essence, and I love that because I went to them and I was like, look, how do we still keep the relationship going? And he has this beautiful team that actually understands that. So I now try to tell my own people that we were talking about this the other day on the phone. It's like, look, some deals aren't. It's not black and white. Sometimes it's a little gray, and it's like, you just got to go with the flow because it feels good. Like, to me, Essence Fest can't be in New Orleans and D Nice is not there. You know what I mean?
Talk, yo.
You know what I'm saying, Rich? I got to be there. All right, so Rich,
shots fired.
Rich invited me to the Hamptons, but I literally got off a plane, and when we put that in the navigation, it said it was going to take 3 hours to get to that location. I was like, 3 hours?
This is true, Rich. This is a true story. So I know we're going way off topic. I'm gonna bring it back. I promise.
All right.
Okay, but Rich, D said to me, he was like, "Did you go to the Hamptons?" I was like, "Nope." He said, "Oh, bet." Okay, so getting us back, I think. Well, first, let me just say what my fear was today, and I don't fear much. I feared that this would be an empty room this morning. I have to speak my truth. I really did, right? It's Monday. It's 11 a.m. A lot of us were out last night. Some of you flew in today, and I genuinely thought we were going to walk into an empty space. And that brings me to why we're here today. And as you talk about kindness, being good to people, keeping your word, honoring your commitments, it also brings me to owning your narrative. Right, when you think of Derek, not just D Nice, but Derek, you think of goodness, you think of a person who's always going to show up, whether their camera's there or not. So for anyone in the room thinking about your own personal brand and who you are in the world, who you are in this space, who you are at Cannes, right? Let's talk about why having and owning and getting ahead of our narrative is so important as a culture and as a community, and telling our own stories before others do it for us.
I just never wanted to allow other people to tell my story. Like, I give you an example. Quarantine hit, CQ blew up. I went to the next level. And by the way, I was already doing these events. Like, I was already in the White House. I was already playing Essence. I was already doing. Now, did the world know? No. You had to be on that list, and you were there, and you're like, oh, D Nice is playing. It's cool. CQ blew up. Every film studio, everyone came at me, and they were offering me the most incredible deals that I wanted. I was like, wow, finally, I can get this deal. One of the studios, super major studio, like big studio, gave me a joint venture. And I'm going to tell you why I didn't accept it. Literally, we were redlining everything, and then I woke up one morning, and I was like, man, this is not the way that I was supposed to tell this story. I'm supposed to tell this story not right now. I'm supposed to let it age. We're supposed to get out of this feeling. So when we look back, we can see how far we came with music. And then also, no disrespect to anyone in here, it was truly black music that saved the world. You know what I mean? Like, so that's how I feel. Like, I was playing, I love David Bowie. I was playing some Bowie, but to the core of it, I was playing Stevie Wonder. I was playing Whitney Houston, Mary J. Blige, and the world was responding to all of that. So I felt like why would I give this opportunity up why would I tell this story without involving just more people of color? Like, this was an opportunity. No matter what happens, the story is the story, no matter who puts it out. So to me, I've always operated from a place of integrity, of always trying to do the right thing, of always looking just beyond whatever the surface is. You know, like, yeah, who wouldn't want to say you got this major deal? But at the end of the day, like, to my spirit is like, well, what about the young kid, the young kid that needs a little bit of inspiration? Like, what am I doing for him? That young little black kid. Like, I saw a picture that my mom came into the room. My mom stays with me. You know, she saw my house and she never wanted to leave. And she literally will not leave, and I'm okay with it. I'm like, all right. But she came into the room, like, and showed me a picture of me when I was, like, 7 years old. And I was living in Denver, Colorado, and the picture, like, literally broke my heart because I remember that little kid who was extremely poor and, you know, and to see what that, like, everything that I do is to inspire that little 7-year-old kid or some version of that kid to say, like, you can be who you are and you can love your culture and you can still resonate with everyone in the world. And that's important to me.
So good. So good. So you said that the story is the story. I'll also say that the data is the data, right? Like, numbers don't lie. And I think about, right, the power of being able to track and measure, right, the analytics of what we do. I think about, of course, I work in tech, but I also have a music background. And you see so much happening through numbers and through data. But, and I look at all of our marketers in the room, I see folks like Mike Warner, and I see folks like just so many ad agencies, marketers, CMOs, and I just wonder, right, how much, like, what's your formula and equation for following the data versus trusting your gut, right? And knowing when you have your finger on the pulse and cusp of something that's emerging that maybe the data can't track, but you know is coming. How do you decide when to trust your gut versus following the numbers?
I actually feel that it should be a combination of both. Like, I don't think you should go, you know, in one direction. Trusting your gut, like what feels good, like that mattered. Like, and clearly I'm only basing this, excuse me, on everything that's happened recently. Like, so I'm going to use that, CQ. I saw the numbers rising. I saw everything. And I protected it. As a matter of fact, like every record company, I'll tell you a story. When by day 2, when I was doing this, I got a call. This part is all about trusting your gut, your instincts. I'm gonna I'll leave the brand names out. But I got a call from a famous company that sells chicken. Right?
Not chicken.
No, they were moving a lot of chicken. They were pushing a lot of chicken in these streets.
A lot of chicken weight.
And they offered me a huge check. Said, yo, put that bag of chicken in your IG Live.
And you better like it.
And the check was crazy. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, the check was more than I made per gig. Now, mind you, I'm not leaving my house at this point. So it's like more than what I was earning per gig I do well right now, but prior to COVID, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I was like, all right, cool. You know what? Let's do it. And the mistake that was made was they overnighted me a shirt and asked me to wear the shirt as well, right? And I was like,
not a shirt.
I had the chicken shirt, man. I was like, man, this was about basing it on my instincts. I was like, I cannot be D-Nice from Boogie Down Productions, 80s hip-hop. I know I'm relevant now as a DJ, but there's still a percentage of people that are like, I grew up with you. I can't wear a chicken shirt. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay, that's where we draw the line.
No, so that's where I drew the line. I was like, yo, I can't do this. Keep your check. I'm good. I'm not doing that, man. I didn't promote the chicken. I didn't wear the shirt. I just did what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to follow my instincts, and that's really what it was based on. It was like, no, I'm not supposed to do this. And another person that I'll say, look, we know Diddy is like the #1 marketer when it comes to selling anything. Puff called me every day. Yo, put that Ciroc bottle in there. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it because it didn't feel good to me. Would I rock with Puff? I would sell anything with Puff. Like, that's the homie. Like, I'm proud of him. Like, look, whatever. But in that moment, I followed my instincts, and my instincts were like I wasn't supposed to do that. I was supposed to do what I did for people, and I'm glad that I followed that. Now, in terms of like, thank you. In terms of the numbers that's actually how I knew that what I was doing was mattered to people. Like when people saw like it was 100,000 people in there, like no, actually it was like 4 million people. You know, Instagram just didn't have the ability to keep people logged in while you were listening to music and answering your phone. So it was literally like 4 million people just listening to music. And I catered my music based on those numbers. So I do pay attention to analytics.
Shout out to Puff. We love you, Puff.
Love you,
We've
Puff.
been friends for a very long time. So as we start to wind down, I wanted to touch on for a second just really the power of hip hop. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop. You are a pioneer. I'm going to say it again. You are a pioneer in hip hop, which is the #1 genre of music in the world by a long shot. Yes. So first, can we give it up for hip hop?
Give it up for hip hop.
Give it up for hip hop.
Yeah, man.
Where would we be without hip hop?
I don't know.
Where would you be?
Hip hop saved my life, you know? Hip hop literally saved my life. I'll tell you a story. I'm full of these stories, by the way. I'll tell you a story, man. How I got into hip hop music and why I feel like everything that I do is so divine and why I try to follow like the spiritual path. I was extremely poor. I lived in like this 400 square foot apartment, this tenement apartment, 5th floor walk up. My great grandmother and I slept in the living room. It was my cousin's apartment. She was only 21. She had a 2-year-old kid, and she had a boyfriend that was not the father of her child, and we all lived together. And that boyfriend worked at a men's shelter in the Bronx. Worked at the men's shelter. And he asked me if I could bring him some food. I was like 15 years old. It's like, all right, cool. I warmed up some corned beef hash. Remember the little Hormel corn, like the little can? I thought I was cooking. I thought I was a chef, you know what I'm saying? I made some rice, and I walked. We didn't have Uber, and I walked to the other side of the Bronx with this food. It's like 3 miles to get to where I was going, and I walked there. And when I arrived at the shelter, he said, "Hey, I want to introduce you to someone." And he took me into this guy's office. It was the guy who started our group, Boogie Down Productions, by the name of DJ Scott LaRock. And then Scott LaRock introduced me to a guy who lived in the shelter by the name of KRS-One. So KRS lived in the shelter at that point. And I shared this story with Dave Chappelle about 2 years ago, and he stopped me. He was like, "Man, do you hear what you just said?" I was like, "Yeah." I met Scott LaRock and KRS. They was living in the shelter. He was like, "No. I got to say it like Dave." He's like, "No, man. You walk 3 miles with food to feed your future." That's crazy. Had I not gone there, then there is no D-Nice in hip-hop. You know what I mean? And it's, like, important to always follow that path, you know?
So I started this conversation sharing the story of how we met when I was a law school student in North Carolina. But what I didn't say was that while I was in law school at North Carolina Central University School of Law, which was also a university that both of my parents had attended and graduated from, I had HBCU all day, Clark Atlanta too. I wanted nothing more in life than to work in hip hop. I wanted to be the next Sylvia Rohn. I wanted to be the next Deborah Lee. I wanted to be the next, you name it. And
But now someone's going to be the next you.
Woo!
Because of everything that you've done in this business.
And when I went to New York City for the first time in my life to this random club without knowing anybody in the space for real, that was the night we met. Yep. And it was the night that I felt like my dreams were possible and were within reach and attainable. And I dropped out of law school, moved to New York City, and 20 years later became the co-president of the Grammys and now at Google. And it is such an honor and such a blessing to say that I would not be sitting here at Cannes, the 50th year of hip hop, at the Inkwell Beach stage with one of my best friends in the world if it were not for you. I love you.
I love
All
you
right,
too.
happy birthday. Let's go, y'all.
Oh, we got birthday
On the
songs
count
going
of
on?
3, 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, wow.
Happy birthday to you. Go. Happy birthday to
Derek.
Derek D. Nice.
birthday
Oh, wait, there's a
you.
Google cake, too. All right, I'm like blown away by this. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. You can leave it here. Thank you, bro. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm enjoying it.
From the beginning, so here it is.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And
Thank you, V.
only Inkwell Beach stage could do this. Any
Only
last
Inkwell
words?
Beach.
No, only. And my last words, man, I'll just say lead with kindness. Shout out to Londell So Londell McMillan had me rocking at Prince's house for the Prince celebration, 7th year, since Prince since he transitioned. And it was so spiritual to me. And I'm looking at all this purple and all this on the screen right now. But I do want to say thank you to Londell, because when I was there for another party, it didn't feel right to me. And I always wanted to be there to celebrate Prince. And you did that for me. And that's who I love, and just being kind to people, you brought me in there. And I appreciate you. Then that's what we need to be. And then I'll say, I know we got to get off here, but I want to say thank you to Valisha. Valisha, she shared the story on how we met. But what's so beautiful about it is she's always been protective, and always gave me great advice. I'm actually a Grammy voter because of her. She was like, why aren't you voting? I was like, no one ever asked me to. The next day, you're like, the email came. I became a Grammy voter. So I appreciate you and everything that you've done for me and for music and just for black women in general. Seriously, you are truly an inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me just say to you both, thank you so much for joining this Inkwell stage. This is our 5th anniversary, and I could not want to or would not want to celebrate it in any other way with you and celebrating your birthday. Thank you for believing in us, and I'm glad everyone showed up and showed out for this panel. Our theme this year is expect the unexpected, moving from the woe is me to the wow is me as it relates to inclusion in DEI. And Derek, what you just shared with us is the wow of from adversity to where we are right now. You are the epitome of everything, of how do we stay forward, focused in our thinking, and continue to strive for success. So thank you so much for bringing him with me. Thank you, guys. Please give Derek and Valisha D. Nice a round of applause. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So he's been at Inkwell and Martha's Vineyard on the CCDC stage there, and we're so humbled to have you here with us as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just you wait till I take you home. We've got no future, we've got no past. Here today, built to last.
Hello, hello, hello. I just want to make a quick announcement that if you guys would like to eat cake with D-Nice, please head over to the mini bar. We're going to cut the cake if you guys want some cake. Please head on over to the mini bar. Thank you.